Jesus is Lord. And he was such a nice Jewish boy. Jesus changed my life, and he's still in the life-changing business.
As Paul said, the love of Christ compels me.
You know, Randy, I think most people don't realize how much darkness there is in the world.
It can't be just coming to church and getting pumped up with a faith
and
message.
I are all going to have something of faith in us.
Jesus died to save sinners, and you are a sinner.
Shalom and welcome once again to CrossTalk. My name is Randy Weiss, and we're visiting with Pastor Israel from Israel. And our audiences need to know that God is moving now in the land of Israel, doing great and mighty things to reveal Himself. And He's using you and Jewish believers like you, and men and women in your congregations. God is on the move. Tell us about the work of God, my brother.
It's amazing to see how gospel is growing in Israel. There is challenging and living in Israel as a messianic believer, as one who believes in Jesus, as a Jewish Yeshua Messiah. It's a blessing and it's a challenge. But we're really blessed to see how Bible full of promises of return of Jewish people, not only to the land, first to the land and then to God.
The challenges that you face, these challenges of which you speak, they build your faith?
Surely they build my faith. And I can share a couple of personal testimonies. And I would love to start with quoting Isaiah, and it's my free translation from Hebrew, Bible, but it says, the darkness will cover the nations, and thick darkness will cover the peoples. But rise and shine, because glory of God rising upon you. And what encourages me, you see, it's interesting. Bible speaks about two kinds of darkness. Just first darkness, nations and darkness. It looks like sin, and we know sin is growing all over the world. But also it's second kind of darkness is thick darkness. And I believe it's religious darkness. And Israel really located right in the middle of the problems, of tribulations, of Islam, radical Islam, not just Islam, but radical Islam, it's important to mention. And every country around Israel coming through tribulations. We see war, we see governments gone, and we see problems.
I think it's important to recognize that, it's so easy for people to be critical of Israel and to be making accusations against the Jewish nation and the Jewish leadership and the Jewish people, and they speak of the Palestinians in terms of minority, yes. But people forget Israel is in the middle of an Islamic world where a religion dominates the cultures all around, and where that religion dominates, there's no freedom. You can't declare your faith in Jesus, the Messiah, and walk away from Allah and not expect severe repercussions. People are disowned, they're persecuted, they're imprisoned. It's a crime to declare your faith in Jesus. Whereas in Israel, there are many Christian people who freely express their faith however and wherever they want. You, as a Jewish believer, have the right to have a Messianic Jewish congregation, although some may not be pleased with it. You have the legal right.
Yes, and when we had
beautiful thing.
When we had riots against our congregation or demonstrations, we actually called police, and police came and explained the people what they can and what they cannot do. And
it's a democratic society with a parliament that if American people, Canadian people, British people, Australian people, people in the free world, not enslaved to a false religion like much of the Middle East is, if they realize that it's a free society, people are elected, they have votes, and there's even a party within the Knesset, an Islamic party in the Knesset that stands for the destruction of the nation that they're elected to serve.
That's a bad side of freedom,
There's no other nation in the world with the kind of freedom that is expressed in Israel. And yet people will be critical of this great free society. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, coming to down from the general picture, coming down, darkness is growing around Israel, but Israel is still growing and rising and thriving and see God's blessing, and it's part of the biblical prophecies. Now, living in Ashdod, I live pretty close to Gaza Strip, and once a while, it's not always, so you're welcome to visit us in Ashdod, but once a while, we have missiles coming, rockets coming from Gaza and landing, exploding in our city. Now, there is a few miracles with that. Last 2 summers ago, we had 300 missiles coming to my city. 90% of them were intercepted in the sky. You know, I have a friend who doing logistics, and he count how many missiles needed to kill one Israeli, and it's shocking discovery. You need thousands and thousands of missiles to kill one person, which is obviously shows the protection of God.
Yes.
In my city, no one was killed. Only one person was injured, and that was tough time by all means. But still, God is protecting us. Now, personal story. One morning, I was picking up my kids from youth camp, coming back to the city, and just coming into the city, the siren took off. And you know, we should have stopped our cars and run down to the shelter, or if there is no shelter around, lay by the car. So I keep driving. Now my kids, they raised in Israel, born and raised in Israel, so they know the rules. They said, "Daddy, stop, stop. You cannot drive, stop." I said, you know, I trust in God and I know He's our protection, but for you, I will do that. So I stopped my car and we just stopped, and I opened the window and I can hear the missile coming. You know, the soldier said, if you hear it, it's too late, right? So I heard boom. And missile came really close to us and didn't explode.
It was a dud.
Yes, it just didn't went off. If it would, we wouldn't be gone. And we just see God's protection.
What
so
a testimony to your children.
Yes, you know, the rocket didn't explode, but my faith exploded, because you know God is protecting you for sure. Now, later, 2 summers ago, my wife and my kid, they were driving to the congregation, to the church, to the congregation, because my wife, she's working with worship, and my kid is singing, and he just, back then was soldier in the Israeli army. And again, siren took off, and they should have stopped, but my son felt in the spirit, and he said, "Don't stop, Mom, keep driving, keep driving." So they moved forward a few hundred meters, sorry, no feet, but meters, it's Israel, and they stopped, and they saw a missile coming and exploding right at the spot they should have stopped at the first time. Wow. So God spared their life too. And they continued to go to the congregation. We worship God. We had a wonderful meeting when Holy Spirit worked. And we see kind of miracles, this type of miracles, all the time. So it's just amazing to see difficulties, challenges, but also God's protection, God's blessing, God's work, and work of the Holy Spirit inside of us and around us.
I hope you're understanding what is being said here. When you seek God, and you serve God, and you follow God, He is faithful. Now, you know, if you're playing with God, no promises can be made. If you're dancing around the edges of where God is, and you just don't want to enter in to really know Him and submit your life to Him, no promises for how things are going to go. But if you know Him and you love Him and you serve Him, He is faithful. His mercy endures forever, as we say in Hebrew, Ki le'olam chasdo. We have to take a short break, but when we return, there's so much more.